Hello viewers, wishing you relaxing moments while watching this video. In this part we follow Tieu Hue as she makes a desperate decision to return to her brother's house after days of exhaustion in the forest, hoping for a final chance of understanding from her only remaining family. If you are touched by this dramatic journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to support the story. Under the heavy rain, her fragile figure stumbled along the muddy road, her strength completely drained after days of hunger and cold, her feet wounded and swollen, each step filled with pain. In her weakened state, the image of her brother appeared as the last hope, pushing her to return despite all fear. The old house appeared through the mist, dark and lifeless, just as she remembered. Standing before the door, her heart pounded with both fear and hope. Using her last strength, she knocked, and when the door opened, she collapsed at his feet, crying and holding on to him. Inside the dark house, she begged him not to force her into marriage again, promising to work and repay the debt with honest effort. She placed her last hope in family, believing that seeing her suffering might change his heart. But as she looked into his eyes, searching for compassion, the silence that followed felt heavy and cold. Her fate now depended on a man whose greed might still outweigh blood ties, leaving her standing at the edge of hope and despair. Tieu Hue looked at her brother, hoping to find even a small trace of compassion within him, but what answered her desperate plea was not kindness, but a cold and terrifying silence. He stood there without emotion, his eyes looking at his own sister as if she were nothing more than a useless object returned to him. There were no comforting words, no helping hands, only a firm refusal that shattered the last hope she had held on to. His cruelty did not stop there. Instead of helping her, he quickly formed a dark plan, deciding to keep her in the house not to protect her, but to use her as bait. He intended to inform the people chasing her, hoping to gain a reward or clear his debts, showing that in his eyes, money meant more than family. Tieu Hue realized the truth when she saw him secretly preparing to leave. The pain of betrayal numbed her completely. She understood that trusting him had been a mistake, and that the bond of family she believed in no longer existed. Standing in the familiar house, she felt more alone than ever, as if she had lost the last connection to her past. This second betrayal hurt deeper than anything she had experienced before, destroying her belief in trust and human kindness. Her heart felt suffocated as she realized that the one person she depended on was willing to push her into darkness again. The house now became a prison, trapping her in fear and despair. Yet within that pain, a new strength began to rise. The betrayal awakened a determination inside her, pushing her toward a transformation she had never expected. She understood that if she did not act now, she would lose her chance at freedom forever, and for the first time, she prepared to rely only on herself to survive. As night fell and the cold air of the mountains grew harsher, Tieu Hue understood that if she did not act now, morning would mean falling into the hands of those hunting her. The cruel betrayal of her brother became the force that turned her pain into determination. No longer crying or begging, she silently observed every corner of the house, waiting for the moment when his guard weakened. She quietly slipped through the small window behind the kitchen, holding her breath with every step to avoid making any sound. This second escape was completely different from the first. Before, she was filled with fear and panic, but now her heart was calm and resolute. She was no longer afraid of the darkness, the wild animals, or the cold night. To her, humans had become far more terrifying than nature itself. She walked into the night, her feet crushing dry branches, her eyes steady and determined, heading deeper into the forest to cut off all pursuit. At that moment, the last connection to her past and family was completely broken. She told herself she no longer had a brother, no home, and was no longer the weak girl she once was. This decision brought a strange sense of freedom. even though hardship lay ahead. She accepted that she could only rely on herself, becoming her own protection in a dangerous world. This marked a major transformation within her. The betrayal had reshaped her into someone stronger, quieter, and more resilient. She was no longer running just to survive, but to reclaim control over her own life. In the vast darkness of the forest, a new version of Tieu Hue was born, ready to face every challenge in search of true freedom. After escaping from her brother's house and the intense pursuit, Tieu Hue wandered deeper into remote parts of the forest, where human footprints were rare. During one misty evening, she discovered an abandoned wooden house hidden among old trees. The house was worn down by time, with a broken roof and damaged walls, but to her, it felt like a place of salvation. Without hesitation, she chose to stay and begin a new life away from betrayal. With determination, she started rebuilding the shelter, clearing debris, patching the roof with leaves and grass, and sealing gaps in the walls to protect herself from wind and danger. Rebuilding the house was not only about survival, but also a way to heal her broken spirit, proving that she could live independently. To survive, she worked tirelessly, cultivating a small garden and growing vegetables, while also secretly taking small jobs in distant villages, doing anything from washing dishes to farming work. She lived quietly and cautiously, yet her hard work gradually earned respect from locals. Life in the forest remained harsh, with storms, illness, and constant danger, but these challenges strengthened her resilience. She learned to survive, to face loneliness, and to find peace in simple things like growing plants or quiet mornings. Her past weakness was replaced by strength and determination. She no longer waited for rescue, understanding that her true power came from within. Though her life was filled with hardship, she found a sense of freedom and control over her destiny, choosing independence despite the cost of loneliness. While Tieu Hue was struggling to rebuild her life from the ruins of betrayal, outside in the world, a tense search was unfolding with completely different intentions. At the small wooden house near the forest edge, Tuan had not given up on finding her. He believed her departure was not an end, but a sacrifice to protect him. Every day, he crossed dense forests, following even the smallest traces, his eyes filled with worry and determination, ready to face any danger to bring her back. At the same time, the ruthless group sent by the wealthy man continued their pursuit, using information from her brother to narrow their search, moving through villages and hidden places without hesitation. They searched not with love, but with greed and hatred, ready to destroy anything in their path to capture her. These two forces created a suffocating tension, like two closing traps surrounding the place where she was hiding. Every moment became critical, as the distance between rescue and danger grew smaller. Tuan relied on instinct and his understanding of the forest, while the others relied on numbers and weapons. The tension rose further as both sides moved closer to the abandoned house where Tieu Hue lived. Unaware of the danger, she continued her quiet life, not knowing she was at the center of a coming storm. One evening, as she sat by the fire outside her house, she suddenly heard approaching footsteps and breaking branches from two opposite directions. Her heart raced, sensing that the moment of fate had arrived. Would it be Tuan coming to save her, or the men bringing her back to darkness? Her future now depended on who would reach her first. If you are touched by this dramatic journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to support the story. Thank you for watching and see you in the next chapter.
Trong căn bếp nhỏ hẹp ấy, những câu chuyện nhẹ nhàng được trao đổi, không có sự tra hỏi về quá khứ, chỉ có những lời hỏi han ân cần về sức khỏe hay những dự định cho công việc trong ngày. Khi sương mù bắt đầu tan, nhường chỗ cho những tia nắng vàng xuyên qua kẽ lá, Tieu Hue và Tuấn Anh lại cùng nhau ra mảnh vườn xanh mướt để thu hoạch rau củ. Sự phối hợp giữa hai con người dường như đã trở nên vô cùng ăn ý. như thể họ đã gắn bó rất lâu. Trong khi Tuấn Anh dùng đôi bàn tay mạnh mẽ của mình để nhổ những củ su hào, bắp cải mập mạp, thì Tieu Hue lại khéo léo cắt tỉa, nhặt bỏ những lá sâu và sắp xếp chúng ngay ngắn vào trong bụi tre. Tiếng cười nói khẽ khẽ hòa quyện cùng tiếng xào xạc của lá cây tạo nên một bản giao hưởng thanh bình của lao động. Công việc nhà nông tuy vất vả, đôi bàn tay bắt đầu có những vết chai sần và tà áo lấm lem bùn đất. Nhưng Tieu Hue chưa bao giờ cảm thấy hạnh phúc đến thế. Cô trân trọng từng giọt mồ hôi rơi xuống mảnh đất này, vì đó là mồ hôi của sự tự do, của một kiếp người đang được tái sinh từ đống tro tàn của sự áp bức. Sau khi gùi hàng đầy ắp những nông sản tươi ngon nhất, hai người lại cùng nhau gùi hàng xuống núi để kịp phiên chợ sớm. Đường rừng dốc đứng và trơn trượt, nhưng mỗi khi Tieu Hue mệt mỏi, Tuấn Anh lại lặng lẽ dừng bước chờ đợi, chủ yếu đỡ lấy phần gùi gánh nặng hơn cho cô.